Hello and welcome to a new episode of AICA podcast. Today I'm going to talk with Usha Seejarim, an artist from South Africa, which is a conceptual and a social engaged artist who uses found objects to communicate complex and simple ideas around the domestic position of women. Also, she has a great activity in creating artworks from everyday objects and creating these huge sculptural projects and these huge sculptural artworks. Usha, thank you very much for accepting my invitation to talk to the AICA podcast. Let's start.
Thank you, Mihaela. It's
Yeah.
great to be here.
Uh, Thank you very much. I know you are going to present a paper, and also your artworks are going to be presented at the AICA Congress in October this year. But before you are going to talk about AICA and your presentation during this Congress, I would like to talk to you about how did you started using Dadaist ideas to create your artworks? Because using everyday objects like pegs and small wood things are simply amazing to create artworks.
Thanks, Mihaela. Since a student, I've always been interested in our daily rituals, the things that we do every day, the kind of, excuse
Yeah, it's
me,
okay. Yeah.
the kind of mundane things that we do without thinking. So I looked at my daily commute between Lenasia, where I lived, and Johannesburg, where I was a student, where I was working. And I collected bus tickets. I documented that journey. I also brushed my teeth for 2 hours as a performance piece. So I was interested in these things that we do daily. And then later, I kind of started using domestic objects without noticing that there had been a shift. And only in retrospect, when I looked back, this shift towards these objects started when I became a mother. And I think my daily life became so preoccupied with the domestic that inevitably those objects were more present in my life, I guess. And so now I guess it's more conscious that it's become a kind of language that I work with. But I really love working with these objects because I think that they're so loaded and they speak to so many issues. So for me, I think they are quite metaphoric, and that's why I enjoy working with them. So to answer your question, I think I'm not sure exactly when I started working with them. It was my daughter was born in 2008 and my son was born in 2010. So I guess soon after that, um, I started using those kinds of objects.
And tell me, most of the time, do you buy the objects or you just receive them from different people or you find them on the street or in your, I don't know, workspace or different workspaces around?
So initially, I would ask friends and family and neighbors to donate their old objects. I worked with irons a lot. At one stage, I also worked with, and I continue to, brooms and mops. Um, and I work with the bases of irons as well. So initially, I would get donations from people. I also used to go to like the dump where all the refuse goes before it goes into the landfill, and I still do that. But at the moment, I work with such vast quantities because I make very large works that I buy some of it, and some of it I buy like the irons I buy from a recycling center.
Okay.
So they come to the recycling center. It's a metal recycling center, and then it gets sorted before it gets further recycled. So I grab it at that point before it gets melted or before it goes further. And I buy them per ton because I buy such huge volumes. The pegs I buy new because these pegs I buy new because I just use so many of them as well.
Yeah.
So it just depends. Some things are donated and some are bought.
Yeah, because it's a question that really bugs me because a lot of artists are working with objects that they are finding at recycle places. They're finding in different workspaces. And when I first saw your artworks, which are simply amazing, congratulations on doing that, I was quite keen on the pegs. How did you came to using pegs? Because pegs, I think it's everybody is using pegs, and you're using most of the time wooden ones. How come you're using wooden pegs?
I think I was attracted to the peg because it's so unassuming. It's a kind of object that we don't give much attention to. For me, also it reminds me of my childhood. I'm not sure why. Maybe because more and more we are seeing plastic pegs or bamboo pegs.
Yeah,
But also in South Africa, I think it's quite different to Europe in that we hang our laundry outside. So our laundry gets, because we have abundant sun, most people don't own a tumble dryer. So the peg is something that is used quite a bit. And I think it is a thing that is maybe global South or South African or African, that not everybody even owns a washing machine. Lots of people do their laundry by hand, even, and we hang our laundry outside. So I think this peg becomes symbolic of so many things. I speak a lot about how the peg has these two parts that has a like a functionality that it's able to hold, and I think for me they become metaphoric for women and the kind of role that women play in holding families together, in kind of uh, uh, being a container of uh, um, holding holding everything together. You know, um, so I think I also like the peg because of its size. It allows me to work in multiple in a way that when joined together, hundreds and hundreds of them just technically allows me to sculpt with them, that I can create form using this very rigid object, which is often quite, the forms that are created are often quite fluid or quite organic or quite soft in a way because of the size of it and the fact that I can use them in such vast multiple.
yeah, it's an amazing answer that you told me about the pegs and about the connection with the womanhood and spaces and places. I know that a lot of your artworks are presented in several art galleries in white boxes, if I can say that. Do you choose your places, or the curators are coming with places idea, exhibition ideas? What's your relationship with curators?
Usually they come to me,
Yeah,
and I also have a gallery that I'm represented by. At the moment, I'm represented by Southern Guild Gallery, who's based in Cape Town and LA. So a lot of the opportunities either come directly to me through curators or through other galleries or through my gallery. Um, but it's interesting that you ask about the white box because I also make a lot of public artwork,
yeah,
and so this I'm so aware of the incredibly different dynamics of showing in the white cube and showing out in a public space, because the public space firstly has a completely different audience, and secondly the context is so important because it's not a white cube, because there's the visual busyness of everything else that's around it, right? And all the senses that's around it, and the people, and the kind of who is it that sees the work, who is it that lives with that work. And I love working with those dynamics because it's so different to the gallery. um, yeah, I
yeah,
don't know
for
if that
sure.
answers.
Yeah, that would have been my follow-up question after the white boxes and galleries. How do you deal with public spaces? Because it's quite a peculiar experience to have a public artwork that you can't control the space. And for a curator, for an artist, from my point of view, it's quite a difficult situation because you have no idea how the public is going to interact with the artworks and how the public is interacting with your public artworks from what you see, what you experience.
So as far as possible, it depends on the kind of commission, or it depends on, the nature of the work. I prefer to be called uh, into the project early into the project. So if I'm working with an architect, I did a artwork 2 years ago where I made a mural out of mosaic that's 154 square meters. But I got brought into the project already at the design phase of the building, which was incredible. Because then the artwork is not something that's pasted into the space, it's integral to the space and it's integrated into the space. And when it happens like that, I did a number of workshops. So the mural is at a school, it's at a preschool, and I did a number of workshops with the learners at the school and also with the teachers of the school, so that the design comes from the inside out as opposed to me as an outside. So as far as possible, I like to integrate the immediate audience into the process. In other cases, also there's some kind of community engagement process, so that there's already kind of ownership into the artwork or the design of the artwork or the concept of the artwork from people who are in the immediate visual access of the work. So that is my preference. It's not always the case. It's not doesn't always
Mhm.
happen in that way, but I prefer to work in this way so that it's more inclusive.
Yeah, for sure. It's great that you include a lot of workshop that you speak to the audience, you speak to young generation, to people that have no clues about art, and even though they are surrounded by the artworks. And I would like to ask you, what's your opinion about an artist that is doing a terrific job but has very not good skills in communicating its idea? Should he or she work with a curator, with an art gallery? Should have a cultural manager, several cultural mediators? What's your opinion about that? Yeah.
Uh, I mean, like everybody's different, and
Yeah.
everybody has certain skills. I think the opposite of that is people who speak very well but make really shitty work, and they're able to get quite far just through being quite eloquent or being quite expressive. And I think there's some artists who make beautiful work and the work speaks for itself. For me, always, I think that's important that the work should be able to speak. I think the ability to communicate about your work is a marketing thing. It does create access when you can do it well, and with all kinds of other skills. An artist needs to be able to do so many things. It's so much more beyond just the making of the work. It's the ability to communicate. It's the ability to market your work. It's social media. It's proposal writing. It's writing about your work. It's managing your finances. It's being able to be strategic about your career. And no one person is able to do all of these things so well, right? There's some things that we're good at and some things that we're not so good at. And as artists, the thing that we do the most well is make art. And as far
Yeah.
as possible, if we can surround ourselves with the kind of support structure to do all these other things, ideally that's the situation. But it's not always possible financially. It's not always possible with the kind of resources that we have access to. So ideally, yes, if you're not good at those skills, you should get somebody else to do it for you or learn to do it. I don't know. Some people are quite shy. I'm also quite shy. I consider myself to be quite shy, actually. And yeah, so I think to answer your question, to get help where you can't would be the best.
Yeah, I asked you because working in culture is quite a solitary activity, and a lot of speakers that I have at this podcast are telling me about their solitary activity, and that's a sometimes it's an issue and also an opportunity for them because you're working by yourself, you're writing. In my case, in your case, you're creating art, and that's why I ask you how you present your artworks. How what advice can you give to a young artist, to a young individual that really tries to create new art. And also, I would like to ask you, how do you deal with plagiarism? Because a lot of people can work with pegs, but they are not going to create your the artworks that you are creating. Did plagiarism happen to you? How did you deal with it?
Before I answer your plagiarism question, I just want to go back and
Yeah,
I just want to say something about having other people write about you or other people speak for you. It's a dual thing, and I think on the one hand, it's uh, a thing where you want to make sure that your voice as an artist is what you want to say, and there's a danger in putting that responsibility in somebody else's hands because sometimes they don't speak what your intention is. Sometimes they do a better job than you, so it's about getting that balance right. Yeah. Uh,
yeah,
so, to answer your next question about plagiarism, I mean, I think artists copy, some artists copy other artists a lot. I feel for myself, it's not something that I worry about too much because I've built such a clear signature of my work. Um, I've, it's so solid that I think if anybody, I've kind of I've claimed the space as an artist
yeah.
to work with these objects and these specific objects in the specific way that I do. I think it would be very difficult for somebody else to to copy what I do without it being so obvious. Um, there are other artists who work with similar, I mean, there's lots of artists who work with the same kind of concept or similar concept, but I think my visual language is so clearly defined and so clearly set as a signature that it would be very difficult for somebody else to copy that.
I like that you said that your style is very, I don't know, well made and well presented to the public, that if somebody is going to recreate it, it's going to be just a plagiarism of your artwork. I would like every artist to come to this level that they can do artworks, and even though people are going to get inspired by them, everybody is going to know that yes, you were inspired by that artist. And that's congratulations on achieving this, because it's not a simple thing to do. It's not a simple thing to become a well-known artist. And I want just to circle back a little bit, because you told me about people writing about your artworks. And a lot of, I think that you not only received good reviews, but sometimes you receive very critical reviews. How do you deal with them? Because everybody working in culture at one point are going to receive critical in a negative way. How do you deal with it?
I love it. I love
Really?
receiving compliments. And I think it's because there's so many people who just praise you blindly without being
Okay.
honest. So for me, honesty is great because it helps me grow. And when I was younger, I think I would take criticism badly and feel offended and feel upset. But I'm at a point in my life now where I welcome it because honestly, I welcome it because it does make me want to self-reflect and say, okay, have I got into a comfort zone where I'm not being critical in my work? Am I not pushing the boundaries enough? Um, am I not making a clear positioning about my work? So I welcome criticism. And in fact, I have a few artist friends where when I make work, and as an artist, you kind of know sometimes when it's not working, where I can lean on them and say, I made this, but something's not right. Or what do you think? And I have really good friends who I know are not going to say, oh, it's wonderful. They're going to give me honest feedback. I have one friend in particular, she'll say, sorry, babe, it's not working. And that's what I need because I rather have it at that stage than take it out into the public where it's obvious that it's not working, you know? So I think criticism is good. And I think, sure, there's some criticism that's there to tear you down, but you can develop a thick skin quickly. And if you see it in a way that's there for your growth, use it. Use it and see what is it saying? What am I not seeing in here that I need to be more aware of?
Yeah, that's an awesome answer. Really, that's an awesome, because I'm also dealing with a lot of sometimes I don't know how to deal with negative criticisms about my articles, about my exhibition. And as you said, when I was younger, I was very um, sad when I received a bad input. But right now, something, yes, somebody is seeing something I'm not seeing, so maybe I should work on making things in a different way. And because you told me about your friend that is telling you you should change something at your artwork, how do you know when the final artwork is done? How do you know when to stop creating?
I have a feeling. It's
Okay,
very difficult to articulate. My assistant says that I hear a ping.
okay,
I can. There's a click, and I just
okay.
know. And it's knowing when it's done, but it's also knowing when it's not right. Like I can just, it's a feeling. And I think it's something, it's a kind of intuition that's developed over time. It comes from having made so much of work, but also maybe like working with younger artists, teaching, lecturing, where you're there to offer feedback. It's, I don't know, I think it's a developed thing that you just know.
Yeah. What
Yeah.
do you do with the pieces that you don't like or you do not want to show to the public because they are not the your best version of artworks?
They stay in the studio until they are the best version. And sometimes I
Okay.
had one work here that stayed for 2 years. And every day I put it right in front of my face so that I'm confronted by it, so that I'm forced to look at it. I'm forced to think about what's wrong. And for 2 years I didn't have the answer. And then one day I walked in and I said, I know what to do. And
Yeah.
it
Yeah, I
and then
think that's the definition of a creative process worldwide for each artist, for each cultural worker. I think this is the process that you are doing, and it's quite messy. It's quite troubling. You struggle a lot with the final piece. And when we started the podcast, I talked about your participating in the AICA Congress. And can you tell me more about what you're going to do at the AICA Congress, about your topic that you're going to present without telling me so much information, so a lot of people can join the AICA Congress and see your presentation over there?
sure. So, I mean, the AICA conference is framed around female artists on the African continent and our kind of positionality, also the challenges of being an artist of color and a female artist of color. And I've been thinking about this quite a bit. And my particular identity sits within a kind of nuanced position, which is something that I've not struggled with because I've made peace with it. Is that I uh, I I come from a lineage of being of Indian descent. So I'm not born in India. I'm born in South Africa, but I don't have a dark skin, but I don't have a white skin either. So I look Indian, but I'm not Indian. I identify as African, but I have this strong cultural identity of being of Indian descent. And I've been thinking about this kind of middle place, and it is something that I want to talk about as a kind of marginal identity, because I think so much of identity is so clearly, literally black and white, whereas I sit in a very middle space of being brown, and what does that mean of being in this marginal kind of identity where you are neither nor or either or. So it is a starting point for me for this presentation. I'm not yet sure where it's going, but it is something that I want to use as a starting point for my presentation. And I think a lot of my work speaks to the role of women, but there is a cultural influence in my work as well, in terms of my own identity. So I want to bring some of that in as well.
Yeah, that's great. I read about your Indian background in an article about you, and they stated that you're using pigments that are Indian made. Can you tell me more about those pigments? Because when I was reading the article, I was like, I should really ask Usha about the pigments because the article was not giving me so much information about that.
Amazing. Okay. So I've used what's called kumkum powder. It's the
Yeah,
very deep red pigment, and it's often used to make a bindi.
yeah,
So symbolically, it represents being married. So a red bindi is put when a woman is married, and um, as a woman, I think it's quite this bindi is such a significant thing because along with being identified as being married comes a whole lot of other expectations, which all my work is about that. It's about the kind of expectation of being a woman in the home and what how that expectation is received. Is it an expectation that is quite oppressive? Is it one that comes with a sense of agency or freedom? Does it come with cultural codes that are very patriarchal? Um, and so, like um, the domestic objects that I use, the kumkum powder also becomes quite symbolic in speaking to broader issues for women.
yeah. Thank you very much for telling me about the pigments because I was very keen on learning more about how you integrate your Indian descendant, how do you integrate your Indian identity, and I think it's quite important to present it to the public, to present it in your artwork, as you stated, and I really love that you do not use a final definition about your artwork, about your fact being a woman artist. And as my final question, because time is quite running out, I saw that when the public is allowed to choose artworks that are going to be presented in an art gallery, they are going to choose a lot of women artworks. Also in Romania, I've noticed that, and also last week, I chose a piece from a museum, and at the opening, everybody have chosen paintings and artworks created by women. You think? Uh, why do you think people are choosing to do that? Because I was really, I don't know, I chose a woman artist because I really wanted to have more women present in art, art galleries. And when I learned that everybody chose women artists from 500 artworks, it was simply amazing. Something like 25 women and two men artworks. What
Well,
do
it's
you, what,
about time. It's about
isn't
time.
it? Yeah,
I mean, I think women have been on the back seat for so long, and male, particularly in our industry, it is a highly male-dominated industry, not just from artists, but also curators, gallerists, um, collectors. And it's not that are aren't enough female artists. It's just that female artists haven't been given the platform enough. Um, so I think maybe it is a time where there's a conscious kind of redress to say, okay, let's relook at how we do this, which is a good thing. But I think there is also a level of tokenism to include women for to be politically correct or to be, you know. So obviously, I think women should be included for the merit of what it is that we do, as opposed to being a kind of tokenistic uh, inclusion. But on the whole, I think it's time. It's time to hear the other voice, and it is a very needed voice to be heard. Yeah.
yeah, for sure. Yeah. Usha, thank you very much for all the discussion about your artwork, about your presentation in the AICA Congress, and thank you very much for all your input that you gave me and you gave the audience of the AICA podcast during this discussion. It was a pleasure to talk to you, and it was a pleasure to be part of your workspace because we heard a lot of noises from outside your workspace, and thank you very much for allowing me to be part of this.
It's my absolute pleasure, Mihaela.
Okay. And we're going to keep in touch and thank you very much. And hope to see you soon, as soon as possible, for sure at the AICA Congress. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.